Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. So this video is going to be about grief and loss. And this is actually a suggestion from a comment on Instagram, which I appreciate so much. I don't know the proper etiquette to thank you or give kudos or anything like that. I don't know exactly how the ats and tags work. So if anyone knows, please reach out to me and let me know, because I would love to show appreciation, but I know you're watching this. Thank you. Back to the not so fun stuff of grief and loss. I thought of a couple different ways to do this, but if I talked about it in all of its entirety, it'd be a very, very long video. So instead, what I'm going to do is talk about my own personal philosophy, belief system about it. And if anyone wants to hear the rest of it, I can make a much longer YouTube video in the future. So my very base understanding, right? My very understanding of grief and loss and how it comes about in the first time is there's a change that happens, right? Now, a normal change won't cause grief, right? So there has to be, additional modifiers to it, right? So this is a change. And if you add in, let's say, I'm gonna use this key, a negative, right? It has to be negative, right? And I'm gonna use this little remote thing, right? And it has to be something that you had an attachment to, okay? Change in of itself will not cause grief, right? But if you add in, right, it's something that you had an attachment to, you were personally involved in, and then a negative, right? Because a promotion doesn't count. Promotion would you not grieve? You would grieve, getting cut from your job or a team that you really dedicated yourself and really put an effort to. You were involved in it, it was negative, right? And then there was a change that took place that would cause this feeling of loss. Because grief is kind of a mix of different, it's like a stage, right? Multiple things happen on that stage, right? The stages of grief, right? I'm sure everyone's heard that. I'm not going to go into the scientific one. I'm going to use my personal ones. But that's my base understanding of grief, right? With that understanding, I have a personal philosophy and an understanding that change is okay. Change is going to happen. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. So that is what helps me handle it the best ways. I have a totally kind of a background philosophy that I've always had, that, me and you and this stuff around these walls, this phone, none of this is going to be the same in the future, right? Now, tomorrow it might be the same, but, inevitably it will change, right? And I'm okay with that, because I know there's nothing, I can't change how time and space and all that stuff works. So I, as a person, can settle with that idea and be like, okay, this is going to happen. And that helps me with these next stages very quickly. So when I have gone through grief, it hasn't been, something life-altering for me personally yet. But this is also a very personal thing. Everyone's going to go through grief differently. This is not like a recommendation for you to just jump in and try, right? If you think it'll help, please, right? Like try it. But I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I am a very strange, weird, logical dude that thinks in very specific ways. Forewarning, I guess. My personal understanding of how I've always handled grief and what I've always thought the best way to handle grief comes in 3 stages. The first one is to forgive. Second one is to be honest. And the third one is to appreciate, right? I'm going to go over all of them, obviously. The first one is to forgive. And that mainly falls on forgiving yourself. A lot of my understanding when grief kicks in, right, and you're really grieving something, is you blame yourself, right? And that causes so many issues down the line. And it's something you can't always prevent. If someone that you deeply knew, they pass away, or, you get cut from a team that you really cared for, or anything that would cause grief, it's easy to immediately blame yourself. Because as a species, we think we're the center of the world and we just assume it's us. And some people have a really hard time forgiving themselves in general, right? I don't know if that's you or if that's someone you know, but sometimes forgiving yourself at all is very difficult. So when you kick in this big change with all these high emotions, it's so easy to just continue blaming yourself for everything. And that is really unhealthy. And so my very first step in this whole process is to forgive yourself and forgive others, right? Other people are also going to be stressed, right? They're also going to have these high emotions. You might even think one of them is at fault. Oh, you should have done more. You should have. Try and forgive, right? Get to that base level of understanding that, you have to forgive, you have to let go. Otherwise, it will control you, right? And it will only ever lead to negative, right? It's okay to feel emotions, right? You don't have to forgive yourself for being sad. Be sad. Be angry if you need to be, right? But don't direct that anger at yourself or other people. The second step is honesty, right? And that, again, mainly being honest with yourself. You have to admit it happened, and there's nothing you can do to change it. It sounds harsh, and I apologize, but it happened, right? There's nothing that we, right now, as a group, no matter how we work this up, we can't stop someone from passing away, right? And even, let's say you're grieving, let's say a relationship is a really good example. If you're grieving said relationship, they did something awful, and this relationship is over. Even if you guys get back together in the future, right, you have to be honest with yourself that happened, right? You can't pretend it didn't. That will never lead to anything healthy in the future. And that's with anything you're grieving. It happened, right? You forgive yourself, and then you're honest with yourself about what happened, right? You can't do everything. You're not a god. You can't prevent things, right? You can't just be everywhere at the same time. It happened, and it's okay, right? It is a part of life. That third step is really just to live your life and to appreciate that you're living that life, right? Don't think you're living life without them. You're living life with all their memories. They helped shape who you are. This opportunity, this relationship, this job, anything that you're grieving, this car, right? All those experiences you put into building that car, all those hours you spent with all those people, those are negative, right? Those are absolutely positive. Don't let the last thing you remember about all that be negative, right? And be sad, be angry, be upset, be confused. Of course, it's emotions. I don't know about you, but I try, but I really don't have perfect control over my emotions. It's okay to feel things, right? You don't need to forgive yourself for feeling things. You should be honest with yourself when you feel those things. You should accept that you're feeling those things and appreciate them. Because if this world can make you feel so down, could it not inevitably make you feel so up, right? So excited, so happy with life, right? At that last step, it's kind of forever, right? And I mean, even all those steps are kind of forever, right? I live my life understanding that I'm not perfect. I forgive when I make mistakes. I understand I can't change everything. I'm honest with myself, or I try very hard to be, about what has happened, what is happening, and what I, as a person, can actually do to affect that. And then I appreciate what I have, right? I appreciate what I've been given. I appreciate the past, right? But I don't let it control me either. This person, this idea, this event, it helps shape who I am. And I like to think that it makes me a good person, right? Because I work very hard to be a good person, right? And all of that is easier because of who I am as a person, right? Like I said, my kind of background, philosophy, right, of things will change, you know what I mean? The one thing I don't think, right, will ever change is change itself, right? Is that this world will continue changing. Nothing will stay the same forever. Nothing that I know of will stay the same forever. And that's okay, right? And make an honest understanding of that's how it is. And then understanding that grief is natural and it's important, right? Don't ever feel bad about grieving for something. If you feel lost, understand that that's acceptable. That's perfect to feel, especially for a while, to allow yourself to feel bad. It happens, right? But then understanding that don't allow yourself to feel like that forever, right? And I think that's a really important part as well. So again, this is all just totally personal. I just wanted to touch on this point because, again, I really do appreciate the comment. This is definitely a longer video, so I apologize. I hope I didn't make anyone yawn. But thank you guys so much for listening. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Again, this is more personal than anything based on my logic and philosophy and everything like that. You guys all have a wonderful day, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you.